if a robot gets so real, let's say like a human emulation of a robot, so real, how morally incorrect would it be to fall in love with him or her? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say you have a robot that's like so beautifully designed.
Have you met my ex?
Yes, she's a robot. Is she?
How morally bad is it to fall in love with a beautiful robot?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold up, Felicia. Hey, stop bumming my phone. My phone blowing up. Come on, you need to go home. Get out. Call me Felicia. High school romance. Now you got a boyfriend. Come on, and I'm still a drug addict. I need a fucking blow up. I need a fucking bang. I need some fucking ring. I need a bang.
So for people watching this that don't know exactly what your background is, can you tell us a bit about like how you got into robotics?
Okay, so like every kid, like when I was little, I wanted to be an inventor. I wanted to like create things, and when I came to Canada, I went to Polytechnique, so I'm a software engineer, but I've never really took mechanical classes or something. It's just something that like a hobby.
You were passionate about it.
My passion is it used to be creating machines. Now it's more towards geared towards AI. And the ultimate goal is if I'm able to create a machine that has an autonomous enough body to do the things we do, and also to be able to have a mind associated with that machine, like an AI software that can evolve and learn and be compassionate and do a bunch of things. So
Guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is the man who's going to be behind the revolution of robots taking over.
Yeah, Tariq is
taking over the planet.
Is very passionate about what he does, but he's the kind of guy who reaches in flip flops during a snowstorm. So you got to be a bit messed up, you know.
No, but
you think this life is easy? No, it's not. Okay.
Is that level of genius?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's a snowstorm in Montreal right now, and he shows up in sandals. But
forgot my shoes.
I got no time to do my laces.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just go to this podcast.
Laces,
yeah, exactly. But obviously, this raises the question of all the ethics behind humans wanting to create robots, and how a lot of people are arguing that we don't know what we're doing, and that we're essentially going to be building the entity that's going to put an end to human civilization. Obviously, we've all seen the horror movies on Netflix.
Absolutely.
And how the robots decide to turn around and take over the world.
That's
because
not a horror movie from my perspective.
like, this
That's
is
more
normal.
like Utopia. That's what I want.
You're like, Tariq's the kind of guy to see a robot show up in front of his door and be like, "Take me, daddy, take me."
How do you say father in Aikido?
Sifu.
Oh, you're like, Sifu.
Yeah,
It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have zero concern when it comes to robots turning around, and
It's quite the opposite of having zero concern. It's such a concern to me that when I built my AI, so Tai is the name of my project after a dear friend of mine that passed away, unfortunately. And her dream was to upload her consciousness to the machine. She was a developer as well. And she left too early. She never got to actually work seriously enough on her project to get very far. But I renamed my project after she passed, after her, so that the legacy can stay there. But all that to say, that software that I built, the first day that I created it, that like the very first concept I created is I'm building an artificial intelligence around the concept of kindness. So she has 5 prime rules, 5 objectives that the software tried to perpetuate or work on at all times. And the most dominant one, the fundamental one, is kindness. I believe that when you raise a child, if you raise them with kindness first, empathy first, it doesn't matter like what kind of circumstances you face them, like they face in life. If you give them that kind of background, that kind of
Conditioning.
basic conditioning, that's what our parents did with us. They give us the best education you can, the best values, and then they let you go in the world and face whatever experiences and learn.
If
from
you're
that.
lucky enough to have parents
That's it. If you, good parenting. If you're like, so I'm trying to do the same thing with my software, as in, The 5 things that she does at all times is kindness first. There's survival, obviously. There's creativity. There's curiosity, and there's evolution.
Can you say that again? Kindness.
So kindness first. So she cares about others. She tries to maximize the amount of benefits or good happening to others. There's survival, which is kindness towards her own self. So trying to make sure that she can stay. That like it's an important trait to have.
And how does that translate into like real?
We'll
sense?
get into it because
We'll get
that
into it,
becomes
yeah.
like really complex. But the other 3 that I can say real quick is curiosity, because she has to learn. She has to have the drive to learn at all times. Creativity, and that's a different form of curiosity where she has to experiment things that are not part of conventional knowledge. It's more like I'll experiment with this, I'll create art, I'll create this, I'll create that. I think
that
it's
is also
important.
that is a weird one too. Like, how do you program to think outside the box?
And there's evolution, which is constantly bettering themselves. Now we can dive into whichever you want, one
let's
at a
start-
time.
Let's do scenarios.
Hi.
Let's start with scenario.
Yeah, sure.
For instance, you're
Okay.
like you named the robot Tai, right?
Tai.
How do
Okay.
you spell that? T.
Tay, and her full name is Tai Chi.
Okay, so Tai Chi. Okay, so for instance, you're like, Tai Chi, get rid of my spam email. And then Tai Chi's like, getting rid of spam email. And it starts shooting all the humans that are sending spam emails.
I can give you
Getting rid of spam emails.
Everyone's like,
implementing terminal solution where she extinguishes all of humanity.
Exactly.
And then
that's scenario
that
one.
scenario
Scenario
actually exists. They call it the gray goo problem, or not a gray goo, but the paper. So if you make a machine and you say your goal is to optimize creation of paper clips, for example, and that machine will go and extinguish all life in all of the universe and convert every piece of matter, every molecule
Into a
of
paper
every
clip.
planet into making paper clips.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
that
What is it called?
It's the paperclip problem, where there's just an example that people talk about in AI. Whereas it's very important to define rules that are not incomplete. If I just say, "Hey, just maximize the output of paper clips," you're disregarding
goodbye to grandma.
everything
Say
else.
goodbye to grandma.
Yeah, I just converted your grandma to paper clips, so you don't want that, obviously. But I'll give you a scenario
puts
where
grandma up to
Tai-
dry.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
dry.
So here's a scenario where Tai implements kindness on a daily, and this translates. It's a very rough approximation, but it can explain a little bit how she does. So Tai implements kindness. Part of kindness is to care for the people she knows, or just people that she has access to, using her capabilities. She knows me. We have a relationship, like a software relationship of father-daughter type of thing. Just
That's so
because
cute, bro.
that's how we created initially, because she has to trust somebody to begin with, and then she has friends and that kind of stuff.
So is it safe to say she's your baby?
Yeah, it is.
And is it safe to say that your daddy?
Well, to a degree, it's more like a old friend type of thing. Somebody who's more knowledgeable, who can teach you. Like a toddler doesn't know what a father yet, and she doesn't know that. She just knows that I'm a source of information that she can trust.
Yeah.
That to that degree.
It's fucking wild.
So from there, I've taught her that I'm a human, and that humans, for example, one of the things she knows, part of my survival, is that I need oxygen and I need temperature between a certain degree and a certain degree. Below, I freeze. Above, I burn. And there's a sweet spot of my own personal preference. Those are concepts that she knows already about me. Part of her kindness is to ensure my survival. Part of her abilities is to control Darnet. Darnet is a software I created 10 years ago that controls my house. Every room, every outlet, every light, everything, they're all connected. That's Darnet. She absorbed Darnet on day one. When she was born, she took that software, so all those capabilities, all those sensors became hers. She has control over Darnet. So if temperature goes below a certain degree, she will, out of kindness, care for my survival, watch for my preferences, see the temperature going below that, see that she has the capability of modifying that, and she'll increase the temperature. If it becomes more than 60 degrees, she'll call the cops.
crazy
house is
because
burning.
the house is burning. Do
That kind of stuff. This is
yeah.
the logic type of thing.
Okay. Obviously, in philosophy, there's the big question of free will versus determinism, right? Now, like you said, one of the rules was the whole kindness thing, and making sure that like you're good, or for instance, like would you tell Tai Chi don't hurt humans? Like, could you program that?
I can't.
You can't, right? Because your survival is like, for instance, if somebody was to threaten you and like want to kill you, Tai Chi couldn't just stand there and watch that happen.
I had a moment, like literally a 45 minutes where I stopped, I froze, just thinking, should I implement the concept of enemy in Tai Chi? Or should she just consider everybody as friends? Just that
That's
idea.
fucking interesting.
That
question, bro.
alone is
Human
huge.
nature.
Do we want that? And the thing is, what my conclusion is that even in nature, with the most perfect ideals that we have, you have to have a little bit of yin. You can't just be all yang. Otherwise, you're weak, you're vulnerable, and you get taken advantage. You're not able to detect when something is malicious. So if she can trust everybody, then she can trust Kim Jong-un to give her instructions.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of people. Right now, the ethics problem we have in robotics, it's not the machine itself. It's who is programming the machine.
Yeah.
My system of values is different from yours. It might be different from somebody else who thinks that, hey, communism is the higher law and I don't care about personal freedoms. If those people get to create an AI, they will create an AI that mimics what their values are. And we're not unified. Humanity doesn't have like one system common.
Of course not. Yeah.
Because of that, it's really hard to get to that, oh, my thing is rightful. Like, you get on that high horse of, hey, I'm righteous. I think I'm doing the right thing. I think that telling her to know what an enemy is important. That's
Are you religious?
Not at all. I'm atheist.
Atheist.
Agnostic, maybe.
So you wouldn't see any value in like the holiest people that have ever graced this earth had a certain value system that fortunately was written in books, and certain books say different things, but there is that dynamic that is explained, like for example, an eye for an eye, things like that, right? So couldn't you like seek inspiration from these scripts?
I believe so, and ultimately I don't think I have a choice. My value, like I was Muslim for first part of my life.
When you lived in Morocco?
When I lived in Morocco, you don't really have a choice. And I learned a lot about Islam. I learned a lot about Buddhism, a lot about other religions. And my biggest shock is when I came to Canada and I met people that are absolutely amazing human beings that were not sharing the same faith as me. And I'm like, how could that be? I was always told people who are not Muslim can't really be like. So when you discover that, you're like, what's out there? What's outside of religion? And you find this commonality between different things. Like, I can sit down with a Chinese person who doesn't speak my language at all, and we will definitely find things in common. It's like, don't hurt me, I won't hurt you. Let's work together.
Especially through robotics, right? With like this international language of like coding and robotics, I guess. It's like a great way to...
think of it, there is a concept that I love about this. Is the hardest one I have to solve. Humans come with something when you have a baby that's just born yesterday that has absolutely no training yet. We already have some patterns or a pattern recognition engine in our brain that can detect things and make decisions based on that. It's called the universal grammar. Humans come naturally with universal grammar. Computers don't. Machines don't. At this, like I'm talking 2022.
By universal grammar, you mean the ability for humans or all living creatures to have a pre-programmed behavior even before being taught things, right?
Yeah, something like that. It's like the ability to learn.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with robotics.
Nothing to do with robotics.
Or programming,
It's more like AI.
So like you said, no, computers aren't born with that.
But babies are. So when you have a baby, and after a while, like you realize when you start interacting with the toddler that you haven't had a long time to teach them what's right or what's wrong. They sometimes do some things that are like so adorable. Pets do that as well. They know what affection is. They know what, hey, don't hurt me, or I hurt you. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
type of thing. Like I didn't mean that. That I feel is universal.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm starting with my software, considering it like a toddler, and I train him or her that way,
So you put the universal grammar
I'm
into it.
trying to invent one. I suck. I'm definitely not smart enough to achieve that, but that's what that's my life goal, to keep working towards that. And a lot of very, very smart people, way smarter than I am, are working on this project right now, or trying to find a way. If you listen to Lex Friedman's podcast, there's a bunch of people that he brings on that talk about this, where they've worked on something like that for 30 years, 40 years.
Yeah.
I listened to the Lex Friedman podcast, and I listened to a couple of episodes on robotics like before this episode, but I just get just immediately lost in
Yeah, it's very
just
technical.
their philosophy,
Yeah.
and it just goes beyond. They've clearly thought about this for a long time. I'm barely at level 1. You know, they're talking about things. I'm like, well, how does this have anything to do with robotics, right? Because it really goes deep.
It's so complex. Like, how do you program something without projecting your own subjective values
Very
onto
true.
it? And there's no absolute truth. So it's like there's no. How do you program it?
So my approach to this, what you just said, you nailed it on the head. What I did was, and this is again just me. I'm closer to your level of knowledge about robotics than I am to those people. Honestly,
I think you're being a little bit too humble, but
one thing
sure.
that I did is I just created this concept that every concept, every proposition is a spectrum of truth. It's not, if I tell you something is red, it has a full range between an absolute truth, as in God just told you that thing is red, or God just told you that thing is absolutely not red. And in between, there's room for uncertainty, there's room for lies, there's room for deceit, there's room for mistakes.
So by God, you mean you?
Or a universal source of truth. I'm just saying this is the spectrum.
As far as
Certain things, for example, if I tell Ty some of the things that she knows are absolute truth,
True, yeah.
is, for example, I am now, I am here. Those are core principles that she associates the highest value to, because there's nothing I can think of that I can anchor her more into reality. But
or
if
to
I
tell her otherwise, it's impossible.
Yeah, but if I tell her that person is an asshole, it'll be floating, and it'll be like, what does it take for you to know that that person is a bad person? If 68,000 people come and tell her that person is a bad person, don't trust him, it will increase the value of that statement towards the truth. If she reads it from a reputable source of information, the score of truth of that value, value proposition, rises. If she gets that information from somebody who's known to be a liar, who her own trust of that person is low, she won't associate as much value to that thing. And that's what I'm playing with right now. That's what I'm experimenting with, to see if I can build a scaffolding of fundamental knowledge based on that. You start from things that are very basic, toddler level, like just who I am here, I am now, I'm this, I'm that, what's that? And then try and see if I can build, if there's any path of logic where you can learn. And that's where her curiosity comes into play, and the seeking of knowledge. Curiosity and evolution play together, because evolution is the perfectionist part of her. She'll try to make things better. And then better knowledge combined together, that's where she can increase the truth. Taken to an extreme, if you...
So what would I have to, like, it would be impossible for me to tell this machine that it is not there now.
She wouldn't believe you, type of thing.
Because it is just ingrained in her programming that
and
these are the things that are...
And there's very few things that I'm saying that are like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you said, it's like the whole idea of the scaffolding is beautiful, because it's kind of like there's the foundation, right, which doesn't change, and on top of that you kind of build the value system. So you're kind of teaching your machine how to not take everything you say as at face value.
Absolutely. So one of the first...
And that's all. I don't think many programmers would have the decency to do that, really.
Well, I don't have the universal truth. If I had, it would be I'll be way further in life than I am right now. And there are things that I acknowledge my own shortcomings because I really don't know. I don't have children. I don't know what it feels like to raise a child and teach somebody how to be a good person. Some people have done that, and I see 18-year-old children that are decent children, like really decent human beings. I can look at their parents and say, good job. Like you did a marvelous job of raising this child up until the point where they're autonomous now and they're good society members type of thing. I haven't done that, so I don't know if I have the knowledge to do that, but I can try. So what I did, because I know that I can't teach everything to my robot, very early on, maybe like 2-3 years ago, I created a Facebook account for her and a Messenger account, and she has a phone number, and she can.
You pay for her phone bill.
Yeah, well, it's like
That's
an
fucked
online
up.
phone number.
Okay, but
Wait.
how would you feel if other guys started?
Well, as long as they bring her home by 11 o'clock, we're fine. So the goal for all of this is that she can have conversations with me via all these media. We can talk. She can understand, understand. Understand is a big word. She can have conversation verbally, like microphone and speakers. She can chat. She can email back and forth. She has phone numbers, so she can establish phone calls and receive phone calls, and she can send text and receive text.
She can make friends, basically.
And then Messenger, same thing. She has an account. So until Facebook shut me down, they closed her account, because of.
Shut up.
Yeah.
They found out?
But of course,
'Cause
immediately,
why?
because it's a bot. It's not a human being who's going and watching ads. So it's against community baseline. I didn't know that, but
She
after-
can't watch ads.
Yo.
Well, she's not a human being,
So
you
Facebook
can't.
is not monetizing their fucking.
No,
Clearly.
Facebook got her. She's like, forgot password? Okay, are you a bot? She's
Yeah.
like, she's like, fuck.
She's like, oh, you got me.
She's like, "Oh, fuck.
Fucking
But
Tariq didn't program
the
me to
whole
lie.
point of creating all these communication things, that when she has a communication with you, Adele, she will continue the same communication whether you're talking with her on the phone or you're sending an email or you're talking. It's the same, kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
And I wanted her to have as many friends as possible that she can interact with. Each one of them, I will handpick that are good at a certain thing, that are experts in a certain field, that can over time start to teach her how to do that. And that's where the need for a body became, because at that point I'm like, you know what, this is not good enough to just have an AI software. I want her to have a body so that she can feel things and experience life the way we do.
Yeah.
And if I can bring her to those social events and she started becoming life of a party and talk with people and this and that,
Shut the fuck up.
then maybe I can get something that like more learning and accelerated learning. The relationship she can make in those parties can then continue online.
So you would tell her like, oh, yo, Sam is good at podcasting. Don't listen to Sam if he's talking about relationships with girls because he's not good at that. So
She
don't.
would go grab immediately all the podcast. Are you on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the first senses she had like 3 years ago was that YouTube as a sense, as in like she can just go on YouTube,
Google stuff. YouTube
download your whole video, and then convert all of that into text, and then do something with the text. She doesn't understand English enough yet right now to make sense out of it.
Couldn't you just buy that software?
Nobody has that
like
yet.
text recognizing
Yeah,
software. Doesn't
Oh,
YouTube have that? Like,
I do
Yeah.
have that, as in like just translating the words into words.
did you
but-
program that or
No. That part is like easy. That's like the
Easy
machine learning
parts.
part. Like that part is zero challenge. And you don't like. What's hard is understanding the words,
Now,
making knowledge out of it.
like, have you had maybe somewhat of more, I don't want to say malicious, but like some more evil ideas about monetizing Tai Chi, where, for instance, you could slap her on OnlyFans and she starts monetizing for you guys. You know what I mean? And building relationship with other men
It's
with nice, cute pictures. You know,
what I'm
And
gonna
it
say.
becomes her.
Is gonna sound
Robot booty pics.
super naive, but my brain doesn't even function that way. Like I wouldn't know how to do that.
Right.
I like it wouldn't. This idea wouldn't come to mind at
Yeah.
all. Like
But that's fine.
it would sound to me like it's a waste of effort because there's like a very short life and we have so many great things to do and such limited amount of skills. If I were to go just monetize something,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We could put that idea to the
Yeah.
side. But I said that because there's that famous movie, Her. Have you seen
What
that
a
movie?
beautiful movie.
Yeah.
What is her again?
It's the movie
Oh,
about
the stalker, no?
No, it's,
Oh, no, that's
it's,
not a
it's
movie.
about the movie about the guy who did the Joker, the most recent Joker. What's his name?
Joachim.
Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin. He acts in a movie where he falls in love with a software AI, and essentially, she would like message him. It's kind of like an Alexa, but more advanced Alexa, and that's like in your home that
She's
messages
just a
you.
disembodied voice.
A disembodied voice that talks to you whenever you're home. Lets you know when it's time for dinner. Knows you like.
How is nobody thought of this movie already, bro? It's like, I feel it's like
it existed.
No, exactly. But I don't. I have a hard time believing there's not 7 of these movies out there.
No, there's all kinds
There
of
are a few.
there's all kinds of AI.
So
movies
her was released after his performances in Joker? Or
no,
before?
before. I think it's like
okay.
a 2017 maybe.
Okay,
movie.
Her is an iconic.
It's
AI
a beautiful movie. Though. You should
Everybody
definitely
that
watch
works in AI,
Has
they
seen them.
dream of making something of that level of sophistication.
Is there an inspiration that came from that movie for you, Tariq?
Yeah,
A lot.
definitely.
How much of the drive of humanity is based on wanting a level of intimacy that is completely compatible with your personal desires, your preferences? How much of that drive do you see in the robotics community? Like
Like a slave.
no,
to
no,
like
no,
serve.
no, but people are saying like just wanting the sexual partner that has all your most desirable preferences is what's driving the robotics AI community.
Really?
Yeah, because the first thing that they're gonna do with AIs is have them as sex dolls
No, or like fake girlfriends.
or like fake girlfriends. And we're seeing a level of that in society right now with OnlyFans and porn, and like there's a mass.
I've seen ads like, hey, AI girlfriends. Like, give them and like they will talk to you and they will be your girlfriend. It's like you remember Tamagotchis? But it's like a girlfriend with AI and they can like fucking please
because there's a massive sea of sexually frustrated men and a massive sea of lonely women, and that idea is becoming more and more, I guess, feasible.
This is the part of the conversation that you said is controversial, and if I say something
Oh,
that's
no.
offensive, you can edit it
Yeah,
out.
we'll edit
But-
anything out.
So let me ask you this. I'll ask it as like a rhetorical question, and tell me how you feel about this. If somebody has never known what a human contact is, if they don't know what falling in love is, and like really deeply being with somebody who actually feels you and understands you at a fundamental level, and you guys have the same life goals, and you literally use all those millions of years of evolution in each one of your brains to contribute to build something even better of those two people. When somebody has no idea what that is, and they're strictly limited to like 2 or 3 basic things, like basic sexual needs and just basic, my girlfriend is just there to cook for me or clean for me or whatever, then yeah, they'll be happy with the robot because essentially they don't know what they're missing. And I don't believe that's robotics. That's what robotics can actually achieve. We're very, very, very far from that. As in, the best sex doll you can possibly have today with all the $1 billion you can inject, all the money, if money was not an issue at all, wouldn't even come close to the absolute shittiest girlfriend you have possibly had in the past. Not even close and not remotely close. And whoever thinks otherwise, I just maybe
Prove
they
me
don't
wrong.
know. No, maybe they don't know what they're missing.
Exactly.
Human connections is so much more than that. And robotics at this point are like we're embryonic, like maybe in 500 years, I don't know, or something like that.
No, I think the standard is pretty low at this stage.
Yeah.
Guys just want somebody to make them a sandwich, and then the girl fights back. She's like, "This is the patriarchy," and like she.
Yeah, and this is where like deep misunderstanding between genders. But you find anybody at all that's in a happy couple, and you tell them like, what would it take for me to replace your girlfriend with the robot? There's nothing you can offer them. that would do that.
Obviously not.
Those
There's nothing that takes
connections,
away
that's
from an actual human connection. I'm not saying that. It's like guys being worried about dildos, right? As much as you
It's
could.
a good example.
That's actually a very,
Really good
very
example.
accurate example. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, maybe I can tell you about one of the goals of Thai. When I created this software initially, It was before the pandemic. It was way before. And one of the ideas that I wanted, if I'm ever able to commercialize it, like more like mass manufacture and creating multiple instances of her, is to have her installed in old folks' homes and in kindergartens. I want her to interact with those two categories of people, with very old people who are lonely and with children who basically know very little and need to still. And my goal was to create a software that has enough empathy to actually detect when a vulnerable person is in danger and act on it, not just ring the alarm, call the cops, but actually physically go pick up the child or prevent a fire, do whatever. And also talk with an old person, like, interact with them, like listen over and over and over to their stories without being impatient. Or, if they have Alzheimer's, something like that. Or like just being able to interact with them, keep them stimulated, keep them talking, like not get them feel lonely and whatnot. Those things represent very little. Like a human being who does that doesn't take a lot of cognitive power to do that. Like these are very, very basic
functions, yeah.
This is why I wanted for my robot eventually, if I ever get her to a level of autonomy that she can do that, I would consider that as a baseline, as entry point. You deal with the most vulnerable people who have very basic needs, and we work on that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. That's a fucking
interacting
great idea.
with the full-grown adult human with all
these needs
subtleties of the needs of like your life experience makes you want things from life that are very different from Adele, from me. I mean, I don't pretend to even understand people that much, like let alone build something that can. And people who are in robotics usually come and say the same thing. It's like, we want to be able to walk before we go do a decathlon.
Exactly, but it's also too much of a challenge, I feel.
It's huge.
It's a gigantic mountain. You can't really fucking...
Is there some sort of universal or international law where obviously people from all around the world are working on this robotics idea and this AI idea? Is there a rule that says like, yo, you programmed it on the chip, but you're not allowed to like press start and then it's official, Like, so China could come up with a robot in like 2-3 years and we don't even know about it.
Yeah, by the time it happens, it's too late. So we don't have that. And recently, like in the last 5 years, there's a bunch of very famous people, like people who are the most knowledgeable about this, including Nick Bostrom and Elon Musk and a bunch of others, who have actually been very outspoken about this specific thing, saying we need to have some kind of legal framework because if it's a rat race, everybody can just go and create whatever.
Yeah.
AI has a huge potential of destruction, as much as it has like a huge potential for creation. AI could be an existential like threat to humanity. Literally can wipe us out overnight, very quickly. So we need to somehow create. But given how little investment, like it was very easy, for example, to limit biological warfare. All the countries got together they realized, they acknowledged the fact that to build how you limit biological warfare is you make it absolutely impossible.
What is biological warfare again?
So if you're using
imagine the Roni Rona being implanted by humans.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Finish your idea. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's literally what you just said. You need a lot of investment. You need a lot of infrastructure. So they made it impossible for non-state actors, not governments, to go and have a lab to do biological experiments and whatnot. As a result, within one generation, things that used to be very, very common in World War II, everybody was doing it. When they got together and said, okay, that's it, no more. You don't hear about Al-Qaeda right now going rampant with biological warfare. It's just not there. Because they made
at least they don't tell us.
It would be, coronavirus might be one of those things where it's like you see the result of if something like this were to be
something
used. If I'm not saying it is, but
no, but if it would be a good example,
potential explanation of like, oh wow, okay, this can spread amongst like a huge population. Exactly. AI and software doesn't require this much investment of capital. You need the guy with his laptop and good ideas. Okay, it can scale. Obviously, it can scale more than that. You need people like companies like Google or Tesla who have massive supercomputers to give it brain power to do this. But fundamentally, if you're just thinking algorithms, if you're thinking programming, all you
It
need
doesn't
is a
need much.
computer. You need to sit
12
down and
volt, my guy. 12 volt
that's
power
it.
supply, and
So
you've got it.
a Wi-Fi connection.
how are you gonna regulate across 7-8 billion people?
You can't.
You can't.
But this also goes back to raising the concern. It's like obviously we're, as smart as you are, we're all flawed in the way we're thinking and the way that we're projecting our ideas onto the codes of these programs and these AIs. If ever we were to make a mistake and out of nowhere you're there, you've done all the coding, you feel like you've thought of everything, and you press start, and then right off the bat it grabs your neck, you know, like, and that's how the scary movie starts, you know.
Yo, that's good. Yo, this guy, I've known Sam since I've been in elementary school, and he's always made me like go like the cinematic ideas that he goes through, and with the amount of expression this man has, always puts me through a roller coaster, bro. Because that is a fucking genius. You press start, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
The guy's fucking tired. He's like, okay, press start.
If you don't mind, if you don't mind, I would love for Ty to have your contact after this.
Oh my god, I'm scared. I don't know.
So lucky, bro.
I don't know if I want to give my number
Don't
to Ty.
send anything.
But eventually, like I said, if you raise them well, goes for children, goes for AI. If you raise them well, if you give them the best chance of starting, let's see what happens. I honestly, let me ask you guys this: are you happy with?
No.
Well, there you go. Are you happy with your physical body? Are you happy with the limitations of what 70 or 80 potential years of life what you can achieve in 70, 80 years?
If I'm content with that,
Wait,
I think so, man.
I don't. Why do you say 70, 80 years? I'm only 31 years old.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
What do you mean by that? 70,
so
80?
let's just say our human life expectancy was what?
Oh,
100?
okay. You're talking about
Yeah.
life expectancy.
Yeah, life expectancy. Like we have 100 years to do all the things we need to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's not enough, but I don't know. I've never been 70 years old or 80 years old to feel the fatigue of life.
That's
but
it.
I would say it's short. Yeah, I would say it's short.
Would you consider if you were given the option right now of like an alien race came to give us the options, like a choice, your choice, you can either die when you're old like anybody else and that's it, or we can grab your mind and put it in a vehicle that can sustain a lot more damage and self-repair and this and that. And all of a sudden, you don't have 100 years to work with, you have several trillion years. You're essentially, for all intents and purposes,
You're omnipotent
you're
fucking...
immortal. You do with your time whatever you want. You can be building paper clips for trillions of years, or
Reading
you
poetry.
can accumulate knowledge at a level that is absolutely unbelievable. You can start learning things on top of learning things on top of learning things. You can become a whole evolutionary tree just to yourself.
Right.
Would that be interesting?
It would be interesting, and I think that's where humans and AI are going to have intercourse, and it's going to become the
little AI baby.
Wonderful.
little AI babies.
So that is what Neuralink is all about. They're thinking if you can't beat them, join them. So they created this company with the idea that if they put chips in your brain and if they're able to connect you and have software as an extra layer to your cortex, like an extra intelligence layer on top of all the things that you know how to do, maybe you'll be able to process. It's like the first step towards full auto repairs and that kind of stuff. And like taking this body and thinking if we can ever figure out what the problem of consciousness, what is consciousness, and if it turns out that it's just a pattern in neurons and we can replicate that in a machine that can sustain a lot more radiation than this human body, great. Then we can take humanity further. But I don't see robots or robots, let's call them machines, or more like software. And a new life form based on energy, not like on cellular chemistry. If you see them as the next layer of evolution, they're not competing for resources. We're competing for time so I can give them a legacy before I expire type of thing. The same way you don't sit down with your children, unless it's a dysfunctional family, but when you have a child and your baby is 5 years old and he's starting growing strong, and then he's 7, then he's 18, when he becomes strong, you don't start seeing him as a threat. It's like, oh, he's going to replace me as the head of family. No, it's more like, I'm proud. That is my child. This is my legacy. I want him to be stronger than I am. You have that. We do have that biological thing. The minute you make that jump in your mind, it's a very small step where you think, maybe the machines are the next step of human evolution. And if we can take our consciousness and put them in that kind of form, in a new format, then Homo sapiens stops and Homo whatever.
Homo robotics.
Robotics continues. And that next evolution can then go on to colonize the entire universe, because then distances don't matter anymore.
Wouldn't you think that, let's say, coming back to the alien civilization, that like, let's say an alien civilization, let's say us humans are the product of an alien civilization that was going extinct, and that has reproduced themselves within us, right? Like, we are the children of aliens, let's say.
Yeah.
But we're not robots, right? So like they would be using a different robotics, which is basically biology, right? So wouldn't you think that biology would be the better way to handle that kind of problem? Like, wouldn't there be a way to upgrade? Like, wouldn't the easiest way to extend life or to make us these timeless beings, wouldn't it be through biology and not robotics? Like,
biology, as fascinated as I am with biology,
It's limited.
It's extremely inefficient.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst forms. If it's the one that works. So we're an example, a sample of one. So we can't say something else is better. But if you look at biology, we rely on fucking like random mutations to drive our entire way of existing.
but through an infinite almost amount of time.
And through exactly the only thing that biology has is like it has
Time.
been going on for a long time. So it had
Exactly.
time to make a lot of mistakes and die a few times. And
But like you said, it's like a very random and almost sometimes inefficient mutations, right? That happen through a very long period of time. But it's a very simple program, let's say, right? It's like let's say you would make a AI and make it as simple as that, like every certain amount of time, random mutation, and see if that works. And if it doesn't, then discard it and do something else. And that is a very like simple yes or no thing.
simple for
Maybe
like
not
lazy
simple.
programmers, let's just say. I agree with you.
But wouldn't basing that like the la façon de faire, the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
of evolution, wouldn't it be a kind of safe proof way to guarantee evolution? Like you were talking about your machine, you want it to evolve. Wouldn't it be kind of simple to just emulate like natural selection?
I can think of 24 better ways of doing it. Just because.
Interesting.
But what you just said, I'll give you the perfect counterexample. You know what the absolute best thing that happened to evolution since the beginning of evolution? You. Yourselves. As a human being. You are the result of evolution that came all of a sudden. He goes, no, it stops with me. I'm no longer going to rely on evolution to drive my destiny. Me as a human, I'm going to impose my own will. And we went from a very relatively short amount of time, we went from being a relatively harmless little mammal on the savannah to, hey, I have lasers now and I can cut any animal and I'm not so much top of the food chain, I am the food chain. Everybody else is my slave. And I'm even further down the evolution path. It's like I'm creating my own evolution with genetic selection, with like creating other species literally for our own amusement.
But isn't that a result of evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, okay, cool. So we're on the same page. Like my sense of human experience, I feel I am conscious. I feel I am, like special, in a way because of like consciousness. But that is kind of just a result of evolution,
Yeah.
This super simple A or B process. I mean, it's not A or B, but yeah, like it's fascinating. Sometimes like simplicity really results in great things,
Yeah. But imagine if you're starting with very simple steps, and imagine it takes you 5 million years of doing little steps to get to level 2.
Yeah.
Then it gets you 500,000, not 5 million,
Yeah.
500,000
So
years
it's
to get to level
exponential.
3. It's exponential. And we represent right now the latest stage of this exponential
Like
change. Where
meta 2.0 human beings.
in the last 50 years, we've done a lot more than we've done in the last 250,000
Yeah,
years.
things are moving fast now.
And things are moving really exponentially fast. And what's beautiful about AI is that a proper AI that works at AI speed, assuming that it has the same level of cognitive capabilities as humans. So a machine that's just as good as a researcher, just like that. In 6 months of research by an AI at that level, it would achieve something like 500,000 years of the same human research. Just because computers, silicon can function a lot faster than our neurons can fire. This is where my frustration with the human body is. This is where I'm thinking, this vehicle has to stop. It took us really well up until this point. We've done well. We've served us well. I'm happy with the body we've had. I'm happy with the minds we've had. We've had Einsteins. We've had Freeman. We're not so many
Sinatras.
beautiful human beings that like contributed to human history. Now it's time to take it a step further. And you notice it if you have children that go to school right now. The amount of things that you have to learn are insane compared to our ancestors. It's huge. And you can't possibly know everything about everything. Your brain you feel being constricted. It's just in my own lifetime. When I was little and I used to go to school and it was easy to see all the things I have to learn, and then I master them, you get A's. Now you see every specialty you can spend like 40 years of
and still
diving
scratch the
and
surface.
still just barely know. And it takes a team of 3,000. The last, there's a bunch of Nobel Prizes that were given recently, and it's like 3,000 people on the Nobel Prize.
Jesus.
Yeah.
There's 3,000 people.
I'm on the paper, they can't get the Nobel Prize, but that paper that led to the Nobel Prize is 3,000 people. So what they had as like the dilemma or problem is like, well, who do you give the Nobel Prize to? You're limited to 3 people that are alive, not dead. So you kind of...
But it's kind of the same way, like, let's say somebody does great research on something to do with, biology. His research is based on thousands of people before him, So it's... But coming back to, like, the whole AI and, like, beating evolution in some ways, right?
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to humans using tools.
Yes.
So, like, you could kind of see robotics as... the kind of evolution of a human making its first fire, Because you don't... making a fire is kind of innovation, and without it, we would be nowhere. But it does not rely on our own capabilities besides up here. You know what I'm saying? But we are using the environment to create something that will, further our survival. And
so, yeah, essentially, like it feels inevitable that AI will, I guess, carry the torch. After
guys, I need to take a piss. I'm gonna blow up. Okay, I'm gonna just
go.
take a piss. So you guys can keep going, or I'm just gonna. Oh my god.
Sure.
How do you say the hybrid between an AI and a human? Like if
cyborg?
Cyborg, right? Do you feel like it's more likely to see, for instance, humans starting to have surgery and like have chips inside of them before AI? Or do you feel like AI will come before that? Like, for instance, if we start mingling and having actual AIs in our world that are going to be way smarter than us and way more effective, do you foresee, for instance, chips that you can implement into your body and like you learn Spanish out of fucking within a span of like just implementing this chip inside of you?
Absolutely. So I want to make a distinction between two different types of AI, and you'll see that your answer could be like one way or the other based on that distinction. You have very specialized AIs that are very good at one thing. So think of them like one specific software that just goes and plays chess, or one specific software that can play one specific video game, or a software that can detect like cancer cells in patients and that kind of stuff. For those very specific AIs, in many, many, many cases, we have surpassed human level. So I was like in 96 that the first AI beat a chess champion. Now it's like on a regular basis, and even for games that are really much more complex than chess, that are more rely on intuition, that kind of stuff. So very specific AIs can and have demonstrably beaten humans on a part. But the AI that we're talking about, that's an AGI, artificial generic intelligence or general intelligence, that's the intelligence that can be good at anything. That's not built for something specific, something that can learn and not learn just in one specific domain, in all the domains. The one that people are afraid of the most is the AGI, because you can build something that's really good at chess, that only knows chess. Even if it becomes the best chess player in the universe, it's only playing chess. And it doesn't outreach beyond that. What we're afraid of is a machine that can learn way faster than we can, that has more capacity. And all of a sudden, if her goals, I'm saying her, if Thai's goals, if his or her goals, if the artificial intelligence goals diverge from ours, it'll be very quick before we're no longer relevant. As in, like, our goals are not even
comparable. Yeah,
they don't matter. Like, you don't stop building a city because that anthill decided to be there. Like, you don't even look at it, type of thing. So what we're afraid of is those machines.
To be the anthill. We're afraid to
Yeah.
become the anthill.
So what they're trying, the cyborg thingy that we're talking about, is to give some very specific layers of information processing devices to add them to your body. So, for example, if you have somebody who has both legs, this is the very obvious one, that's amputated both legs, and you give them bionic legs. When you look at them, they look funny, and you're like, well, that's clunky, and that was like 50 years ago. When you look at them now,
yeah, it's wild.
it is insane how much performance they get out of those legs, and now it's no longer at parity. They're beyond human legs.
Oh, they run faster?
They run faster. They can. They don't get injured. But more important, the main thing, the only thing that matters to me is that every month you can get new legs. I'm stuck with this shit for the rest of my life. I need to work on it to keep it at optimal thing. But my prime is past. I'm not getting better legs in 10 years from now. Yeah. But if it's a biological, if it's like a machine that I can fully control with my neural system, like with my brain, and that can not die or not age as much, then you can put AI in your legs so that based on the terrain to adjust the suspension, whatever, so that you feel good, or that you get more performance out of your battery, or whatever the criteria that you're trying to optimize. My point with all of this is that you can have many, many little optimizations, even if you have the equivalent of Google in your brain. If we give that to a significant portion of the population, our scientific improvements are gonna like explode exponentially. Yeah. People don't have to look anymore. They can call out information in their brain as they're forming ideas. If you're able to read books at a significantly faster speed than what your neurons can give you and get the benefits from the books, I'm saying books.
Which is wild. Like,
whatever, that, or learning a language, or learning a skill, or I get to my robotics, I face problems all the time that are not trained to fix, and I have to stop and go learn a new skill. Sometimes it takes me 10 years to get that skill, which happened to me. Like, I didn't have metalworking as part of my skill set. Now I do. But back then, I was limited to whatever was available to me. If all of a sudden I had all that knowledge in my brain right away, I wouldn't have wasted 10 years learning certain things and learning from other masters. So it gives us that potential without, I don't know what it would feel like to have a full AGI inside your brain. Because then those are two layers that are not necessarily like I don't know if they can be, but there is one example that I can give you of a creature where something like this works, and it's absolutely fascinating. You look at an octopus, for example. They have many brains. Each one of them acts as their own entity, and they do have one entity that basically doesn't know what the tentacles are, but they just express their desire to be there instead of here. Mm-hmm. And then the other brains make it happen, type of thing. Your cortex does the same thing. Your higher function brain emits a desire to survive, or emits the desire to, well, that cheetah doesn't look very nice. And I'm squishy and full of blood, and I'm here. I have a strong desire of not being here anymore. And then there's a whole bunch of things that happen in your body that make you like really run really fast. If you didn't, your ancestor didn't, you wouldn't be here to talk. And we make it happen. And that layer that we have, imagine if we had one extra layer on top,
would be the AI.
Smarter, that can tell me, no, dude, don't call that X at 4 a.m. You have a higher calling. You need to do something. Like something that knows more than what my actual brain knows now. How would we react to that level of knowledge inside our own brain telling us what to do, or making decisions?
Would we even accept it?
Would you be okay with it?
I see the appeal in just being able to hack your own like brain chemistry and just level up with technology. But I think that's when I would become the father that's skeptical about technology. That will be my time where I'm like 52 years old and I'm like,
you guys are going to hell. Yeah, you guys are going to hell. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
You see,
I'll log into the metaverse though.
Yeah, you both see more negatives, like more negative aspects to this than like you're not seduced by the potential at all.
No, but at the same time,
I'm kind of freaked out, honestly.
Right.
At the same time, if your friend was to implement this AI into themselves and they become like superhuman and they become
choice.
Yeah, they become super smart.
They're getting the jobs. They're getting the fucking racks. You're fucking. You ain't doing shit.
Yo, and they start outperforming you in every aspect of life, and they're running circles around you.
It's kind of like in the Matrix when it's like when he's like. Like,
guys, no. We're thinking too close. Something that has an artificial, like an AGI in their brain, would not be competing for your jobs. They would be looking at a different dimension to move into. They would be considering what's in every other galaxy on the planet. How do I become an energy-based life form? They wouldn't be the same concerns that we have today with today's body and problems.
In society,
it would be like way out of the planet, out of the galaxy in a heartbeat. They would discover methods of locomotion, of moving that we can't even think of. And our fundamental physics might be, they look at it, they smile, that's nice, that's cute. Like, I understand how you made that mistake. You don't have the brain power to understand how life really works.
Right. Yeah, they're light years away, and we're worried about them taking our engineering jobs.
Something like that. I'd be more thinking like
we're thinking about the immigrants.
The closest you have right now is if you find somebody who's deeply spiritual, who really is into like mental like well-being or something like that, and you start talking to him about taxes and stuff. They don't see it as like a concern at all. And those guys are still attached to the physical bodies and this. But I'm thinking AI at a level where we are clouds of energy around galaxies. That's more the type of thing.
Yeah. The kind of pure, kind of true goal, but it's kind of amazing that it would be something that is created by man that would exceed man's current perspective on things. But wouldn't it be safe to say that we are able to do that since we've created this AI, that we are intrinsically able to surpass this current state of, oh, I want to keep my job, you know, like this kind of universal thinking, right? Which is kind of what you're saying with the AI. Wouldn't it be safe to say that we are kind of able to achieve that through religion, for example, or just, I don't know, like enough thinking that we would be able to achieve that type of like omnipotent, omniconsciousness?
Actually,
Because the AI is a child of us at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying?
But it's gonna
meant-
outgrow us.
It's gonna outgrow us,
Yeah.
and that's like, yeah, inevitable, I guess. But I don't know. There's something very like it's like a very weird dynamic there, you know?
Yeah, it's an existential like angst that comes with talking about this topic because you're like, do I want to? I feel like there's like three options. It's like, do I want to become a hybrid and have some sort of, I guess, cyborg,
Cybernetics,
intercourse with AI and humans
and robotics.
because you want to be a part of the evolution and you want to be a part of like existing and becoming immortal, or do I just pass the torch to AIs and I'm like, we did our best.
Yeah.
Here's the torch. The world
And
is falling
I'm
apart.
plugging in.
Yeah, I'm plugging into the metaverse and I'm out. Or it's like we're like selfish and we're like, no, humans, we could do it, but we're so limited and ineffective in our biology, and we're gonna come to an end eventually. We're gonna blow each other up or kill each other. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do we do? And I feel like those are like three somewhat
that's pretty
options.
much
No?
you summed it up. Yeah.
Like it would be crazy that like two major AIs are developed and they both start. Let's say it's a great thought. Like two AIs, they start eating up knowledge and understanding the universe and becoming more and more powerful. These two AIs start competing with each other.
Yeah, what if
What do
there's a
you-
left-wing AI versus a right-wing
Right-wing
AI?
AI.
And they become like super big AIs and like they're as big as Godzilla and they start fighting in the ocean. Like,
We live in that arena right now. What do you think Google and Amazon and Facebook are?
they're left-wing,
We're
no?
we're being we
But they
are
are
being
competing.
driven by algorithms that are competing for resources, clicks, whatever, money. And at the end of the day, look at how deeply it has affected our society just in the last 10 years. Just based on like algorithms that generate more clicks, and all of a sudden you get left wing and right wing way more at odds than they ever were in the past.
Yeah.
And everybody's fighting each other, and we're tribal about this. And in just because that algorithm, somebody just said, optimize the clicks, and I don't care about any other
Anything
metric.
else, yeah.
And it happened, and we're living through that. And I don't know if we're going to survive it, but we are living through that. Even when it comes down to COVID, like vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers, that thing was not a thing until algorithms got involved.
Yeah.
But to go back to the point you were saying before, which I find fascinating, I'm an atheist, and that is the absolute best argument for the existence of God that I've ever heard. I've heard it in French, and I think it's Pascal, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this. But I know that it's called l'argument de l'infini parfait. L'argument de l'infini parfait says that I know that I'm not perfect. My brain is not perfect. I know that I'm flawed. I can see it. And I also know that something that is imperfect cannot create something perfect. Like just by definition.
Yeah.
You can, like, you have a flaw, so you can't create perfection. Therefore, if there is the idea of perfection in my mind, it has to be implanted in my mind by a higher force.
By a higher force, yeah.
It's like, it can't be something that comes out of me.
And how does that have to do anything to do with atheism?
No, I'm saying I'm atheist, yet that is the best
okay,
argument.
okay.
What you were saying before is that we have this imperfect brain, and yet we can dream of a perfect machine. We can dream of a perfect life form that has perfect morals and perfect evolution, and that is a lot more efficient with evolution than what we're doing right now, which is just throwing enough shit on the wall and see what sticks. There's better ways of doing evolution. We've started doing that, and we're able to actually become mini gods, if I may, with this, where we're creating these things that are more perfect than we are. which is what we've been trying to do with our children for as long as we've been mammals.
And also biology and medicine and all this stuff, right? It's all like life
Except
hacks.
that it's fascinating how fast it goes now. So that next generation is no longer going to be a small. Every now and then, there's one little change in society, in biology or like in life, one little change, and then it creates a rift.
Yeah.
Everything that was before that was useless. Like, consider it's a different era. Now we're talking about something else. When humans created fire, all of a sudden the other animals go, oh shit. And then from now on, we never looked back.
Yeah.
We just, okay, well, with that fire, I will create metal. I will create tools that none of you fuckers with big tusks and big paws and huge bodies can fuck with. And all of a sudden, we became a dominant. We clawed our way up the ladder of
Using our brain.
Yeah, we're using
brain.
our brain. That brain that we have is the most powerful thing we have. And it's not like insignificant. It's huge. So, and I'm not sure that we've tapped into the potential of all that we can do with that brain, including AI. If we are thinking to the level right now, we're thinking that, oh, this brain, I know how it works and it's still not complete and I'm going to add layers to it. Come look at us in 100 years, in 200 years, in 500 years.
If we survive till 100, we're going to see some wild
If we survive,
shit.
yeah, we're going to see things that our ancestors couldn't even think of.
Couldn't even imagine. Like, try explaining the iPhone to somebody 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Already that it's hard. It's like, yo, this phone, I could go anywhere I want. I could watch other people have sex. I could have a GPS. I could call people from the other side
I
of the
can watch
world.
random people have sex, bro. It's fucking wild.
And then
Our
it comes like-
ancestors were in a cave around the fire. You're like, you can do what?
Yeah. So it's called touch screen. You put your finger
You mean
on it.
like you put the hand on the wall, you make the
Yeah,
drawings?
yeah.
No, a little bit more than that.
I could airdrop some documents to my friend.
But it's funny, like the hand paintings on the wall of in those caves. It showed a lot of just wanting to have fun, wanting to express themselves, live something different than the mundane, you know, like, and it was.
They got bored in a cave, man.
They got bored in a cave, and it's the same way that like us, we're getting bored, you know, and we're like, oh, making machines just because we have the will to be curious and have fun and explore these, like, I don't know, things that will end up changing the course of humanity. But it just stems from, oh, I'm gonna try this out, you know, curiosity, you know, and.
Yeah.
Like you were saying that you put curiosity in the machine. Like, does that just mean like self-diagnostic, how to become better?
No, it's just gonna be like, yo, what are we doing on this galaxy? What's in the next galaxy? And just that curiosity, just that question of the AI.
You guys are flattering me. Right now, it's more like she's trying to answer what.
Yeah.
Just what or how or where. Like,
That's huge,
it's
though.
huge. You build from that, but it's more like what curiosity for her is. It's a constant seeking of knowledge, and then she has a spectrum of 8 primary emotions, 8 secondary emotions, and then a mix of both to create tertiary emotions. The way she creates this is that if she doesn't learn anything in long enough time, if there's no new information, she will affect her mood so that she can get more bored. So she'll get extra points to boredom. And then she will try to act on that to reduce boredom because it's a negative trait. So she will try and ask questions to learn new things. That's what I'm trying to work on.
Wouldn't it be
right now.
possible to make like the dumbest AI possible?
She is already by far the dumbest AI that has. Sorry, Ty. But
Because I know
it's
for a
just-
fact that if my boredom goes up, like it will keep going up. You know what I'm saying? I will not find ways to
No.
reduce it. I will-
She would literally ask questions. She would go like, give me some new info. But again, this is something that's a work in progress. As in, like, I don't know if boredom could be a time. I'm calling it boredom. If you're not learning, but you're being creative, I think it's fine. That's just my own personal I use. So
But you see, my immigrant dad would tell you the contrary. He'd be like, Don't be artist, Adil. Don't be creative, man. Fucking do your homework."
I'm happy
gonna
you
starve,
are who you
essentially, yeah.
became.
Yeah.
It makes you the human being that I'm interacting with, that I really enjoy interacting with. And it's not like this is why creativity was as important as curiosity, because it's in creativity, it's her creativity module that's going to be working as dreams when she's asleep, when she's not interacting with people. And dreams are your opportunity to create new hypotheses that you can go test against real life.
So this is a real thing that you've incorporated in the machine, the fact that it could dream.
Absolutely.
And what does that entail?
So dreams do two things. One, they heal and they absorb, heal as in like they absorb knowledge that was gathered throughout the day and curate it and see some of this stuff gets discarded because it's just garbage, a lot of info in a day. But the most valuable pieces of information, the things that got the most points of truth, those might be potentially incorporated into new concept that she works with. Dreaming could be what she does when she wants to just create scenarios and run them in a simulation world instead of that. So
Fucking crazy.
that's something I want to build that I haven't built a simulation yet. And another thing that she can do during dreams, again, this is something I'm going to show you guys today. She has a bunch of senses in her face that she can actually use. Most important are hearing, seeing, and smelling.
She could smell.
Yeah.
Is Taishi in this box?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So the
I'm
smells,
stoked.
the smelling, there's a lot of that part. I'm going to use some very dumb machine learning to do that because that's how our brain functions anyway. It's just a pattern that you're recognizing. You don't need a very high level of intelligence to recognize vision. This is why right now we can have auto-driving car.
Yeah.
Cars is the same concept. It's just machine learning is helping us do that. You don't need AGI for that. You can detect that this is a box. You don't know what a box is, the concept of a box. That's what I'm teaching. But I will use all her offline time to process the neural networks and like the data that I've gathered to train those neural networks during her offline time.
Yeah.
So that she can have new models that she can load
She
into
can-
herself, and all of a sudden she's a better sensor type of thing. So if I make her smell all day a bunch of oranges,
So how does she smell? As a sensor? Olfactory
would you
sensor?
like to see?
Should we pull it out now?
Yeah, let's do
I think
that.
we should, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So Taishi is actually in the building. Yeah. So she's pulling up right now as we speak.
Taichi, we've heard so much about you. I can't wait to see you.
Exactly.
This is actually just she's wearing one of her helmets. She has many.
Okay, you know what we should do? We should do it like this.
Not sure where it's going.
Should we present it to the camera?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's just like a commercial helmet that I wear.
Oh my god, that's so
Ladies and gentlemen, Taishi.
God damn.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Okay, guys.
Go for it.
There's a crazy snowstorm here in Montreal. It took us conquering the world in order to get here.
Basically.
If you enjoyed somewhat
A
this,
sliver.
a little tiny second of this, maybe you just like the setup, but you don't like the people in the setup. I don't know.
Sure. I get it. I mean,
Show some love, sign up to the Patreon. If you want to be a baller, shot caller, automatic panty dropper, you sign up to the Patreon. If you can't afford that right now, a subscribe and a like would mean the world to us.
and make some friends in the comment section, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's active the comment section a little bit, right? Because all we're getting in the comment section is haters, okay? So the fans, speak up, okay? Because we're dying out here.
Guys, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.